So it's just I'm sure just send you a place and it's never go that's really been there. One o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the roll call of committee members. Commissioner Rubin. Here. Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Ponce.
Here.
I'm here and we have quorum. We'll begin with motion to approve the minutes from our April 4th, 2024 meeting. Commissioners, we have a motion. So moved. Second is moved by Commissioner Fair, seconded by Commissioner Rubin and Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. The motion carries unanimously and the minutes we posted on the commission's website. There are 4 projects on the agenda for today's meeting. Staff to the commission will present the project on the agenda and state their recommendation. Following the staff presentation, the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff. The applicant may then make a statement. Following the applicant's statements, members of the public may make their statements. I'd like to ask anyone other than the applicant wishing to make a statement on the item on today's agenda to complete a public comment card and give the card to a member of the staff. Comment cards are available at the door. As a courtesy to other individuals wishing to offer comments, we ask that members of the general public limit your statements to 3 minutes or less. When the time comes for public comment on the item on the agenda, I will call the names on the cards and ask you to make your statement. Please state your name, the interest, organization or company you represent, if any. And our first project is 3831 South Michigan in the 3rd Ward, Alderman Dowell. The Southside Community Arts Center is the proposed demolition of an existing coach house, and Taylor has a presentation.
I don't see any of our applicants here.
Oh, okay.
We're here.
Okay.
Just the 3 months over here in the corner.
Future from here.
Future Firm is not here. Kennedy, Winters, Kilowatt, and Future Firm are on their way, but I can certainly have any thoughts.
So that they they're on the way.
I'm not development advisor.
Okay, good afternoon, listeners. The Southside Community Arts Center is a long-running arts institution housed in an individually landmark building at 3831 South Michigan Ave. It's located mid-block on the east side of the street between 37th Place and Pershing Road with a public alley to the east. The building was originally designed by Gustav Hallberg in 1892 as a residence for industrialist George Severns and his family. The mansion was later adapted for use as the art center as a work projects administration project in 1940 with interior spaces renovated by Hin Bredendijk and Nathan Lemaire, 2 students of the short-lived New Bauhaus Design School in Chicago. The property consists of 2 separate buildings. At the front of the parcel stands the primary mansion with its front entrance on Michigan, and a large coach house at the rear of the site that is visible from the street, highlighted here in red. Both buildings were referenced in the landmark designation report, but the designation ordinance identifies only the primary building as significant. Per the ordinance, the significant features are all exterior aspects of the building, including all roofs, and on the interior, the reception area and the gallery on the 1st floor and the staircase connecting the 1st and 2nd floors. The SSCAC is in the process of planning a future renovation and addition to make its facility fully accessible and upgrade its galleries and other spaces. The proposal for renovation and an addition will be brought before this committee for review in the future. Initially, the coach house was to be renovated and reused as part of this project. However, as plans for the project were developed and the condition of the coach house was more thoroughly investigated, it became clear that the structure had deteriorated to the point that portions are in danger of collapse, and the work that would be required to salvage it would be extensive. A series of 4 structural condition assessments were performed by Rocky Structures in 2022 and 23. Kennedy Whiters of Workshop Kilowatt did research into the coach house's history as the historic preservation consultant. The reports from the condition assessment were included in the application package, but most significantly found the northeast corner of the masonry exterior walls are severely damaged with displaced masonry, probably from a vehicle collision. The east exterior masonry wall is significantly bowing outward. All exterior walls have extensive cracking and cracked lintels. There's severe water damage to the interior. The wood floors, columns, ceilings, and roof structure are collapsing. And the east parapet wall at the alley is also collapsing inward. The applicant has determined that the near total reconstruction of the coach house required to remedy these conditions in order to retain it will not be feasible and is proposing to demolish it instead. Staff recommends that the demolition of the coach house presents no material change to the significant features and recommends the committee preliminarily find that the 2-story rear coach house located at 3831 South Michigan Ave is non-contributing to the landmark designation for the Southside Community Arts Center, as it is not identified as such in the designation ordinance. Therefore, its demolition will not be an adverse effect on the landmark property with the following condition. Care shall be taken during demolition so that all work, including movement or staging of equipment and materials, does not damage the main house. Demolition of a portion of a landmark structure can require review by City Council if the scope of demolition exceeds a threshold of 40% of the structure per section 2-120-825, subsection A of the Landmarks Ordinance. Subsection B clarifies that the 40% demolition threshold refers to 40% or more of the significant historical and or architectural features identified in the ordinance designating the building or structure. Staff therefore further recommends the committee preliminarily find that as the coach house is not identified as a significant feature in the designation of ordinance and is auxiliary structure to the property, and therefore provisions of section 2-120-825 do not apply. Alderman Dowell has reviewed the proposal and is in support. The architects are here and able to answer your questions, as well as the historic preservation consultant, and I believe board members of the SSCAC and owners representative.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tyler. Commissioner, any questions for Tyler before we hear from the applicant? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant. If you could just introduce yourself. Yeah,
I'm Monique Brinkman Hill, the Executive Director of Southside Community Arts Center. So really happy to be here and looking forward to moving this project forward.
I'm Lance Goff, one of the board members of the Southside Community Arts Center.
I'm Aaron Lavin, Kevin Archie with Urban Resolve, and I'm the Ownership and Development Advisor.
Hi, I'm Kennedy Whiters, Historic Preservation Consultant. Hi, I'm Anne Louie, Principal at Future Farm with Architect.
excellent. Would you like to make any general statements? Anyone from the project team?
I think Tyler summed up the situation really well, and I think we're able to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Just not maybe so specific to, I think the question at hand, but I think there were some notes just about maybe components of, the coach house being salvaged. I think pavers or bricks being used for pavers. Is there any other part of the, structure, that was being thought of being salvaged or used?
Yeah, I think, and with Kevin, there's kind of 3 approaches that we're thinking about honoring the historic coach house. First, I think the most critical element is the way Kennedy has documented the coach house building itself, including historic research around the building's context. As you mentioned, there are some materials that we're hoping to salvage, including historic brick paper, and that we're hoping to reuse on the exterior and create a kind of yellow brick road into the entry of the new addition. And then there are also kind of interpretive strategies to bring forward the history of the coach house. So that includes interpretive signage at key elements throughout the new space and potentially commissioned artworks from SSCAC's artist community that will be featured.
And can I also add that we are uncovering some murals that we're looking to see if there's a potential to salvage them because, you know, they have been delicately to be removed. But so much water damage and, you know, problems with other things happened that it's tenuous at this point, but that's the goal. We were able to pull out some things from the center. We went in and did a total cleanup, but we are very mindful as a center that we want to maintain the historic history, the designation, and whatever pieces that we can that will point to historical and significance for future visitors.
I wanted to add, there's another piece of cultural sensitivity that we're really excited to celebrate and explore around the murals that were mentioned, the brick pavers. There, because of the Margaret Burroughs Gallery and the way in which the artwork was hung over time, there are these beautiful divots in the gallery. And so that is going to be honored and evoked within the addition itself in terms of the external cladding. But the external entry sequence of people of color who were coming as helpers or servants at the mansion in the past used to come in the back door as well. And so there's going to be a whole series of interpretive signage about, you know, the cultural significance of the rear entry as well. So we're really excited to embrace and engage, and our architectural team has been, and historic preservation team has been exceedingly creative in how to interpret that as it relates to not just the historic aspect of it, but the, you know, emphasized cultural significance of the facility.
Thank you for that. The, you know, kind of documentation on the historic preservation piece of that was super helpful to be able to see and review very thorough. So yeah, I know that at least helped kind of, I think, some of the questions at hand for today.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions, commissioners? Seeing none, that moves us to the public comment period. I don't think there's anyone signed up. Oh, yes, please.
We have spoken at length with Board Miller of Preservation Chicago, and he is in support of the project, really likes the idea of it. We will continue to work with him and his great team.
Excellent. Okay, great. So I see no public comments. So I'd like to call on final discussion from our commissioners. And if there are none, like to request a motion to adopt staff recommendations.
So moved, Commissioner Fair.
So moved by Commissioner Fair. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second to Commissioner Ponce. Commissioner Rubin
Yes.
is a yes, and I'm a yes, and the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Very nice,
Thank you.
Thank you very
thoughtful
much.
presentation, and really appreciate that. Look forward to seeing the evolution.
We can't make
You're
it.
welcome. You're welcome to do it before and after, so feel free.
Great, thank you so much. We'll move to project number 2, 3609 West Cermak, 22nd Ward in Alderman Rodriguez's ward, Jackson Storage and Van Company Building. The proposed new 24-foot 9-inch high by 3-foot wide blade sign mounted to the front facade of at 20-foot 3 above grade. And Tyler, I think, has this one as well. Okay.
Subject building is a 5-story masonry warehouse located mid-block on the south side of West Cermak Road between South Millard Avenue to the west and South Central Park Ave to the east, with a public alley to the south. The Jackson Storage and Van Company building was designed in 1927 by the firm of Hall, Bisbee and Reinisch for the Jackson Storage and Van Company. The facade of this utilitarian commercial building is in a rare Venetian Gothic style expressed in brick and terracotta. Its unique design draws on the architecture of Venice, Italy. The building was constructed during the decades from the turn of the last century up until the Great Depression, which saw economic expansion, rapid urbanization, and increased social mobility, During this period, more families could afford their own apartments in the city and moved from one apartment to the other more frequently. This led to the advent of shipping and storage companies. These companies would compete to earn the customer's trust to store or move their belongings safely, and the design and ornament of their warehouses became part of their marketing. The building was recently acquired by Theater Y, a nonprofit theater and arts organization. Theater Y plans to renovate the building and convert it to house a theater, residences, offices, studios, and spaces that can be used by members of the community. On December 7th, 2023, the commission approved a preliminary landmark recommendation for the property. The significant features are preliminarily identified as all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the building, and the Batchelder tile water fountain in the first floor office. At the present time, we are in the consent period and the owner is expected to respond by May 21st, 2024. Should the committee approve the proposal before you today, this approval would be incorporated into the designation ordinance. Plans for the adaptive reuse of the building are still in progress, but the only significant change proposed for the front elevation is a projecting blade sign similar to the signs on many Chicago theaters and movie palaces. The proposed sign measures 24 feet, 9 inches in height by 3 foot wide and 8 inches thick. The proposed location is centered over a door and a pair of small windows on the east side of the facade, with the bottom of the sign 20 foot 3 inches above grade of the sidewalk. The sign is proposed to be made up of individual letters supported by an open metal frame rather than an opaque panel, in order to reduce the perceived mass of the sign and obstruct less of the facade when viewed from the side. When viewed from the front, directly across the tarmac at 8 inches, the relatively thin profile of the proposed sign is much thinner than a typical theater blade sign of the same height. The sign is proposed to be set 1 foot out from the facade. This is an appropriate dimension, as any further would result in an overall projection that is too far out from the building, but any closer would obscure the view of the portion of the facade immediately behind the sign. As proposed, the area taken up by the letters is approximately 1/4 of the total area of the metal frame. The design of the sign itself meets the commission's criteria for illumination of letters and features of signs for landmark buildings. The building never served as a theater and still retains its historic signage over the center entrance, which will be maintained. When a landmark building is adapted for new use, it is important that a visual record of the original use is maintained. The proposed blade sign will not cover or obscure the historic terracotta sign in any way. Staff believes the proposed sign will be able to advertise the new theater use without significantly obscuring the decorative facade or creating irreversible changes, and recommends approval with these conditions. First, hardline scale drawings shall be provided with the permit application, including accurate elevation, section, and attachment drawings with sign dimensions, materials, and illuminating elements identified. Second, the number of mounting points connecting the sign to the facade shall not exceed the minimum number structurally necessary to support the sign. Third, penetrations for fasteners and electrical conduit will be made at mortar joints to the greatest extent possible using custom plates if necessary. Fourth, the sign thickness shall not exceed 8 inches as proposed. 5, as proposed, the electrical power supply shall be concealed within the steel frame. 6, the steel frame shall be as open as possible and contain only the minimum number of members needed for support of each letter. And 7, the letters shall be of a design and typeface such that they do not cover more than 1/3 of the total area of the frame. And finally, 8, the individual letters may be illuminated either internally with halo lighting or with illuminated outlines. Illumination may be provided around the border of the frame. LEDs used for illumination shall not be exposed or directly visible. Alderman Rodriguez has reviewed the proposal but has not offered comment. The architect, Trish Van Der Beck, is here and able to answer your questions.
Great. Thank you, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler before we hear from the architect? See none? Oh, yes.
Just
Commissioner
curious
Fox.
about the recommendation, number 6. The
Yes.
steel frame shall be as open as possible. Is
It's-
that the representation of what you're looking for, or is?
It's basically the rationale for this is because the whole facade is decorative. We wanted to allow the sign, but obscure as little of that tapestry brick pattern as possible. So the compromise is to have an open frame where you can actually support the letters but still see through the sign. So it's just to make sure that stays an open frame when we receive the final permit drawings.
Okay. And is that the representation of what you're, like, what is approved or in the photo, in the image there?
But this is we'll review, because we haven't received a permit
Okay.
application for
Okay,
this,
got
it's
it.
pre-permit. When we receive a detailed application, we'll review it basically to make sure it meets all of these conditions.
Mhm.
And the goal is for it to be as close to that as possible. There might be things that some things that change, like for example, exactly where it's attached or the exact number of attachment points.
Yeah,
Based on structural loading, the condition, what's behind the facade. But
Yeah.
we wanted, there's kind of an extensive list of conditions because we wanted to leave room for the actual details to be developed when a permit is received.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I understand that you want to make it as light as
Yeah.
possible so that it, it's just the frame itself, the color of the frame, it stands out, So the color and the number of, members is probably a thing to look at too.
All right, great question. Thank you, Commissioner Ponce. Any other questions for staff? Okay, let's now hear from the project architect, Trish Vanderbeek.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I apologize in advance. I'm suffering from allergies, so
Oh, boy.
I'm so many simply today. I'm Trish Vanderbeek from.
Sorry.
And really Tyler did a great job of describing this. We worked together with Matt and Tyler to massage the proposal so that it would meet concerns of the staff. And obviously that may their presumed concerns of the commission. As you mentioned, Commissioner say that, the frame, the intent is to have it be as transparent as possible without having done the structural analysis of what's behind the weight of the sign and all the other things that would happen in the actual permit application. This is just a rendering, an assumption of how it might be, and it's quite frankly based a lot on the Scott Wolf, the other sign on Halsted. And so, Theater Y is, I'm also on their board, and I'm not sure why Melissa Lorraine, the director, is not here. She didn't contact me, but they are really embedding themselves in the community and have created a theater company, youth ensemble, as well as she works within the prison system, so she's in Stateville every Monday and has what we call the Inside Ensemble, made up of citizens who we're hoping will return to the community, and we're working to make sure we provide employment opportunities. So in addition to being a landmark in the strict historic sense, we hope to be a landmark.
Great, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions?
Might be maybe a question back for the staff. Just what we're seeing on screen is conceptual. I imagine, once you kind of go through your loading, not just for the building and structural, but wind loads and things like that. That I think should throw bracing, kind of your other anchoring back in. It may change significantly.
Yeah.
So is there a line in the sand where this might back across, kind of PRC room for review, or is today's, kind of decision setting it forward for staff would, carry it forward?
Deanna might be able to expand on that, but I think if the recommendations or the recommended conditions do leave some room for those changes. Usually when we're reviewing a sign, we're reviewing it after we've received the application, and we have all of those details already. This is a rare situation where we're reviewing a large sign pre-permit.
Yeah.
So I guess if it turns out to just absolutely not be possible to meet the conditions, then yes, we may need to look at re-reviewing it. But I'm hopeful and confident that we've created enough, or that we've covered enough that we won't need to do that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the recommendations that are there are kind of all in the spirit of good things of, you know, getting the sign in place there so that, you know, Theater Y can achieve its, you know, kind of mission and, you know, kind of establish itself there. But, you know, there's some really smart things about holding it off of the building and keeping, you know, kind of the supporting structure as thin as possible and try to disappear. It might be. Commissioner Ponce made a good point about supplying a different color to try to make it disappear even further. But yeah, maybe if that's something that we, you know, might share as or add to the recommendation, just that, you know, kind of difference might be good for us to just sign for today.
Commissioner, one way we can handle that is when we see the actual design. If there is a substantial change, we could share with you informally, so that you can see how significant or not that change is, so that we do not delay it for another month or permit review committee if not necessary.
For sure.
I would add that it may be sometime before we're before you with an actual permit recommendation, because this is pre-approval. It was an effort to make sure, and so that I could talk with board members about what, because there's always that sentiment like, oh, what are we doing? Why are we landmarking? And I'm thinking, of course we're landmarking. We approach you, we asked for this, but there are always people who are concerned and constrict options too much. So this was an effort to show the rest of the board that we still have these options open. I really I'm grateful for all the guidance in terms of how they lay out. I feel pretty confident.
So that, do we want to add formally add a condition that if these conditions can't be met, that we will re-review with you?
Sure. I promise I don't chase down signs around the city. But I have no problem seeing if it does.
Great. Any other follow-up questions, commissioners? See none. I don't believe there's any one who signed up first to speak on this item. No. And final points of discussion, commissioners? We covered it. And then like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation with the added clarification for an additional review should this sign change substantially from what presented here with Commissioner Fair. Do we have the motions on the table? I guess, is there a motion? Does anyone want to motion that? So motion moved by Commissioner Fair.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Rubin. Commissioner Ponce?
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck with the.
Yeah, I'm not sniffling with this. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Okay, project. Is that you first?
Thank you.
Oh, that would be nice. That happens to me all the time. Okay. Okay, project number 3. 3232 South Dr. Martin Luther King Drive on the 4th Ward, Alderman Robinson, Calumet, Giles, Prairie District. The proposed rehabilitation and exterior alterations to non-contributing commercial building, including new 2nd story site work and various building improvements. And Emily Barton, hi, well, and has a presentation.
All right, thank you. So the subject property is located mid-block on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive between 32nd Street and 33rd Boulevard. The building also fronts South Calumet Avenue, so both the east and the west elevations are street facing. The building was likely originally a factory, which is an outlier in the largely residential district, and is preliminarily considered to be non-contributing to the Calumet Giles Prairie District. So the Calumet Giles Prairie District Designation Ordinance notes that during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Calumet Giles Prairie District was home to the upper middle class families of the professionals and businessmen that fueled Chicago's economic growth. The houses exhibit the range of architectural styles that characterized residential construction during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, and further exhibit distinctive architectural detailing and craftsmanship. The houses in the district are unified in their architectural expression and in their historical background as a discrete residential area in the larger Douglas neighborhood. Because the district is characterized by single-family homes, outliers stand out, such as the Pershing Magnet School and the Lincoln Perry high-rise apartments, and the subject property is another of these outliers. While staff has been unable to determine the exact date of construction, it appears to have originally been a manufacturing building. Based on Sanborn maps, sometime after 1950, significant alterations were made to the structure with new additions to the north and the south. The site was purchased in the 1960s by the Griffin Funeral Home, where they operated for over 40 years before closing in 2007. The building resembled suburban-style residential buildings from the mid-20th century. Because of the substantial alterations to the building completed after 1950, which is well outside the period of development, which even in its original form did not conform to the majority of the residential district, and the total non-compatibility of the architectural and site characteristics, staff recommends that the building is non-contributing to the Calumet Giles Prairie District. Prior to the current proposed building rehabilitation, involuntary partial demolition occurred last year due to storm damage. Due to the hazardous condition, an emergency demolition permit was issued to remove the majority of the building's collapsed roof, adjacent structural damaged second floor walls, and north end garage enclosure in its entirety. The current owner now proposes to rehabilitate and add on to the building to accommodate the new use as offices for hospice and palliative care. So subsequently, the scope of work now proposed includes a new roof and second floor exterior walls, site work maintenance and other building improvements, new windows, doors, and new MEP equipment. The footprint of the building will match the existing, as the majority of the first floor is proposed to remain the same. The existing windows on the first floor are all proposed to be replaced with new double-hung windows, 4 feet in height, which is comparable to the size of the existing windows. Staff recommends the new windows be wood or aluminum clad wood. Slatted sunshades are proposed above the new windows and are proposed to have a dark, non-reflective finish. The proposed primary finishes consist of keeping the existing brick and limestone veneers for the existing portions of the building to remain. The existing garage on the north elevation is proposed to be removed and replaced with a new porte cochere, 15.5 feet deep and 45 feet long, circled in the top elevation there. Along the south facade, a small new canopy is proposed over the main entry, which is approximately 11 feet in length and 4 feet deep, which is the circle in the smaller, or it's the blue circle, apologies. Along the south facade, both canopies will be simplistic in design and are proposed to be metal in a dark finish matching the sunshades. The applicant's proposing to rebuild a new second story with the same footprint as the previous walls. The newly constructed portion will be contemporary in design with a flat roof and is proposed to be clad in a vertical cementitious panel in a dark gray color. While the previous second story was 28 feet tall, the new second story is proposed to be slightly taller at 30 feet. This is still well within the height range of historic buildings in the district, which on this block range anywhere from 31 feet to 48 feet. Just last year, the committee approved a set of 37.5 foot tall townhouses at the site directly south of this subject property. New, approximately 9 feet tall punched fixed windows flank the addition walls, which are not out of scale within the district. The portion of the second story that still stands is proposed to remain with an additional 5 feet added to the height constructed out of masonry to match the existing. This approximates the height of the mansard roof that was there prior to removal. A new roof deck is proposed on the top floor in the southeast corner of the building. Simple open metal black railings are proposed at its perimeter. As discussed earlier, this building is unique within the largely residential district. The materials, palette, and massing of the new building do not distract from the architectural and historic characteristics of the district, and staff recommends approval as proposed. The site features a large parking lot directly south of the main building and a driveway to the north accessed from both Calumet and King Drive. The applicant is proposing to reduce the footprint of the existing parking lot and introduce new green space at the perimeter. The site has 6 separate curb cuts right now, and the applicant plans to remove 2 of the 6 curb cuts, 1 and 2, which are circled in blue, and both face Calumet. Curb cut number 3 serves as access to the existing garage. Curb cuts 4 and 5 serve as a through connection between Calumet and King Drive, and cut number 6 provides access to the building's parking lot. An existing open metal fence surrounds the property, and that is proposed to be replaced with a new open metal fence on the east, west, and south sides of the lot, which are outlined in red. Along the north perimeter, a solid wood fence is proposed to separate the site from the residential buildings to the north, which is outlined in yellow. Staff recommends that the westernmost 17 feet of the solid fence outlined in green be revised to open metal, matching the remainder of the fencing so as to not project past the front facade of the adjacent contributing property to the north. Staff further recommends that the new fences be no taller than 5 feet. An existing freestanding sign in the southeast corner of the lot is proposed to be refaced with a new illuminated cabinet sign. Staff recommends the sign be revised so that only the letters and logo are illuminated, with the rest of the cabinet to remain opaque. So staff recommends approval of the project with the conditions listed. A letter of opposition from the GAP community organization was included in your packet. The architect and representatives from ownership are here if you have any questions for them or for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Emily. Commissioners, any questions for Emily before we hear from the property, the applicant? Seeing none, let's hear from the applicant. I believe we have the property owner here, Michael Klein. Yes, welcome. You can introduce yourself.
I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
Tristan Daker, with ML Group Architect. Obviously, we're architect and design. We work with Emily. Thank you very much. I think Emily summarized it quite well. You know, we worked with her on her initial comments and we received them, and I think we agree with the staff.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Fair.
I just wanted to confirm, I was just looking over the site plan, and Emily, you had it on screen, but just, you know, about, particularly on the Calumet side, I know that was some of the concern from, I think, the GAP community group, was just that remained consistent and unbroken. It appears to be that way, assuming that I'm reading this right. Calumet, is that at the top side?
Yes.
Okay, so it appears that, you know, that walkway remains unbroken and contiguous. So that might have been just my first thing that I said out loud. Was it a question? Just wanted to confirm also just about, I think it was identified as limestone cladding. In the rendering, it looked like it might have been like a split face brick or something like that, but just wanted to confirm.
So
Go back to the rendering.
the elevation facing.
Yeah,
It's an existing staggered home.
that's the existing.
Yeah. So that's existing, as well as the brick that you're seeing is existing. So the only thing that we're introducing as new is what we're replacing the second, but which is the fiber cement type.
Okay. For that, it could just be, I'm reading the rendering wrong, but it looks like there's, you know, kind of a joint or something like that that's sitting in. in the rendering. And is that correct? Or is this gonna be more so just kind of the cementitious panels, butted together and there's a little bit of a reveal?
So we have, it's kind of, we're using the batten technique.
Okay.
So we have the panels and then the batten,
There's a batten
cuts
cover.
like reveals.
Got it. Okay.
That's your question, Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay, great. Any other comments on the project? Okay. I think that moves us to the public comment portion. We have one comment card that's been submitted. Mr. Blakemore,
Yeah,
would you like to speak on this?
my name is George Blakemore, and I was very disappointed because I looked at your bulletin board and you were supposed to meet, I think, on the second floor. However, I'm looking at the demographic, the ratio of people that are here today. And we must, the Black community must always be included in all the committee permits. What I'm saying is that I went on the second floor. How do you advertise these meetings? And why don't you advertise these meetings? Why is it just a little bitty group of white folks here? And that's the only one black man over here. Now, it's something going on here. And what it looks like is that you want to exclude black people. When you know better, you do better. So I had to hunt you down to find out the time and the place of this particular meeting, even though you got this black man right over here that's working for the agency, but he's the only one. And then if I didn't pop up, it would just be him and y'all. That's why it's very important for me to play the race card. With whatever goes on in this city, black folks have to be included. I had to rush up here. I thought you all was meeting on the second floor in the chamber. So this young man is up here videoing this. He said, "What's going on, Mr. Blakemore?" I'm glad he's up there. The video and showed our citizens in the city of Chicago how we are excluded from these decision-making rooms. Again, I signed up for item number 4 too. So it's very, very important for you all to include black people. I can't believe this. With poor black leadership, no black leadership, to have this particular permit review committee here today and only see one black person. So maybe it's something wrong with black leadership, or maybe it's something wrong with you all that's here. Now, I think this come under Sierra. I think it come under Sierra. So again, it's very important, and I would have been able to make a better presentation if I had known that this meeting was going on. Seemed like you were trying to hide it. But again, I'm gonna speak on the item number 4, and this is excluding. Now look at how many white folks in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and only one black man over there. It's something evil here now, and then you're gonna tag me. If I wouldn't show up, nobody would be here. Thank you, and if you understand what I'm talking about, young man, make it go by.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. I don't believe anyone else has signed up to speak on this item.
I won't play.
And we will move to discussion.
You don't know Mr. Blakemore.
Any final discussion? See none.
You can see.
Like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation.
So
Who was that? So move Commissioner
May second.
Rubin?
Yeah, I
Moved by Commissioner Rubin, seconded by Commissioner Ponce. Commissioner Fair is a yes, I'm a yes, and the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations. Good luck with the project. Moving on to our fourth and final item on the agenda, 850 West Fulton Market, 27th Ward, Alderman Burnett, Fulton Market, Fulton Randolph Market District is the proposed installation of 4 projected metal canopies on the south elevation. And Joyce Ramos has the presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. The Fulton Wholesale Market Company building located at the northeast corner of Fulton Market and Peoria Street was designed by architect William Strickleman and constructed in 1887 with a third story added in 1907. The applicant is proposing to construct 4 flat rectangular metal canopies on the south elevation over the outdoor dining patio of a restaurant. They are located on the 4 easternmost bays of the building and will be installed between the historic decorative cast iron columns with a bolted connection through the non-historic storefront transom bar. The fascia is 8 inches high with a simple flat profile. There will be 2 tiebacks per canopy that are connected to the front of the historic steel lintel, and no attachments will be made to the historic cast iron columns or steel. The canopy will project 11 foot 6 inches out over the sidewalk, and the bottom of the canopy will be 10 foot 3 inches above grade. Sorry, this was actually the slide that I was supposed to be having. So, yeah, just gonna soak this in for a second. Okay, next slide. Thanks. The sidewalk canopies that extend from the front facade were historically used to shield workers and produce from inclement weather and still survive on some buildings. These typically consist of a structural steel frame with a sheet metal cover and tie rods anchoring the canopy to the facade. Typical canopies are rectangular, attached above the storefront, spanning 1 or more bays with a solid fascia. They are unusual and distinctive features of the district. The commission has adopted guidelines for the design and installation of canopies and awnings on historic buildings throughout the city. As outlined, canopies shall be appropriate to the building, employed for shelter, utilize traditional shapes, forms, and materials, in proper proportion to the scale of the building and overall size, shape, and projection, contained within window or door openings that shelter and not obscure or spread over adjacent wall surfaces, and not used solely for advertising. In addition to these general conditions or general guidelines, the commission has also adopted the Fulton Randolph Market District guidelines. In this district, canopy structures were historically important for loading and unloading wholesale meat and produce. And these guidelines reiterate many of the criteria previously noted, but include the following in response to the restoration of historic canopies or the installation of new canopies. And the guidelines outline that canopies shall be flat and shallow angled metal canopies that may be installed where they occurred historically. Canopies may also be installed where they were not historically located, provided that they are compatible in size, scale, location, and design, and do not cover or damage significant architectural features, and canopies may extend over several masonry openings. The size, shape, and location of materials of the proposed new canopies are consistent with the historic awnings and canopies found in the district. They also meet the guidelines for the design and installation of canopies on historic buildings, as well as the Fulton Randolph Market District guidelines. Staff recommends approval of the canopies as proposed. When the applicant is ready to submit for permit, they should include all dimension and attachment details on the drawings. Alderman Burnett's office did receive a copy of the proposal and has no objection to the project. And that concludes my presentation. I do have representation from ownership and the architect that are here. So please let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Commissioners, any questions for staff, Joyce? Anyone else? Before we hear from the applicant?
Just wanted to just double check there are hand lights that are at the other side.
Yes.
Maybe it says so on them.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. But this got cut off. But the other can lights here and then like a
The heater.
heating. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All good.
Great. Let's hear from the property owner. Is it?
Sure, yeah, I'm Michael Fiorentino with Parker Hospitality. Just a little bit about us. We are a Chicago-grown restaurant group. Our concept was started right here is the Hampton Social, our first 2 locations in the city, and then grew in the suburbs, and now we're in several states throughout the country. This location is actually our new concept, first location for Costera. So we're very excited about the concept, about the brand to grow it that as its first seed here in Chicago, and especially excited that it's in a historical district. Happy to answer any questions about Parker Hospitality or the brand.
My name is Brad Hefner. I'm representing DXU Architects and the architect on the project. You know, we definitely looked around the neighborhood and really wanted to kind of capture what's going on, wanted, you know, make sure we fell within the landmark district. And it was great working with Joyce and staff. You know, I think we came up with a great solution. You know, there was some structural concerns with the existing building that were taken into consideration, especially where like the tie rods connect to the building. So.
Great. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions, comments? I'm seeing none. I like how you guys have kind of bisected it between the piers. I think that really helps. Versus just the big one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the canopies didn't cover obscure.
Yeah,
historic cast
that's
iron.
nice. Well done. Okay, any other comments? All right, seeing none, thank you, and we're gonna move to the public comment portion of our meeting, and we have one public person who signed up to speak today, Mr. Blakemore.
Good afternoon. I'm glad I was able to attend this meeting. And it's in one of our historical districts, the Fulton, Randolph Fulton Market District. And I'm here to educate and inform and enlighten our citizens. When a historical building, when you were altered, any changes of a historical building, you would have to come to this permit department here. You would have to come to them for a review to make sure that it doesn't take anything away from these historical buildings. So I challenge each one of you that's sitting on this committee to educate the public, because a lot of people don't know. When you have a historical building and it's a landmark, you just can't come up and deal with any type of changing of the exterior or the interior without coming to this permit review committee. So it's very important to educate and inform your constituents, our citizens, because a lot of times people who buy these buildings, they make these changes and they're not legal. And so you also need somebody to monitor. Well, like those two that own the buildings or are renting or leasing the building, you have to send somebody out from this agent to make sure that what they're presenting to you, that someone from this committee will go actually on site and make sure that they live up to this agreement. It's very important to have people that's informed, educated, and enlightened your public. That young man was telling me, Mr. Blakemore, explain that to me. What's going on? A lot of times, our people don't know what's going on when they're excluded from these rooms. When they're excluded from these rooms, when you know better, you do better. So again, I'm so glad the gentleman was able to come up here and to go live and educate our citizens about a lot of them have historical buildings and homes and things, and you know it's against the law. You want to be a law-abiding citizen to change these historical landmark gifts that we have in our city. You must come to government. That this is a branch of government that dealing with permits. Like you have a permit to drive a car, a license for that. You just can't say, I'm gonna tear down or do this and all of that. So thank you again with the time. Sir, don't do that. Don't do that. If I should go over my 3 minutes or 2 minutes, we got to work together here. I'm giving you a challenge, Chairman, and you too, young man on here. I've spoken to you before about that issue. just having one black face is not enough. Our people must be educated, informed, and
you.
enlightened about government, and
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you,
Thank you.
and make sure this goes out.
Thank you, sir. I don't see any other
All they
folks
do
have
is
planned
around
to
there.
speak today. And I'd like to close the public comment portion of this meeting.
Shut them off.
And I'd like to call for any final discussion, commissioners. Seeing none, if there are no further discussion points, I'd like to request a motion to adopt the staff recommendation. Do we have a motion?
Take them all.
So moved.
So move Commissioner Ponce, second Commissioner Fair. Commissioner Rubin.
Yes.
Is a yes, and I'm a yes. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you for the presentation. Great project.
Oh, thank you, thank you, Mr. Martinez.
And that brings us to the end of our meeting, to the adjournment period. If there's no further business, I'd like to request a motion to adjourn. So move Commissioner Rubin. Second, Commissioner Fair, Commissioner Ponce.
Yes.
Yes, I'm a yes. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Meeting's adjourned.
Good job.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm right.